The following program is shot in 4K high dynamic range and broadcast in high definition from Capital Broadcasting Company.
The sea has been rising for thousands of years.
It continues on this upward increasing pattern.
Scientists predict about a 3-foot rise in sea level along our coast by the end of the century.
This is not something we have to deal with 100 years from now. We have to deal with it right now.
But beach communities are dealing with sea level rise right now.
We are retreating by default.
Mainland coastal communities are dealing with it too.
They have water that they need to move now.
Salt water is invading forests and farms.
Some of these fields here are at or below sea level.
It's inundating a federal wildlife refuge.
There's places that were eroding on average of 45 feet a year.
Across northeastern North Carolina, water is pumping, dikes are blocking, and homes are rising.
Being up here, you feel a lot better,
But sea level isn't rising above politics.
The law makes it illegal for North Carolina to consider scenarios of accelerating rates of sea level rise.
We were made fools of.
Sea level rise is not a theory, it's a measurement.
With a measure of uncertainty for our coast.
Jennifer, let's check out this bond.
Ben Huss is a bail bondsman in Newton, North Carolina.
Check on his court date, make sure he hadn't already missed it. You are a modern day bounty hunter when the guy doesn't show up for court.
The job is risky.
The bigger bonds, that's more risk for us. But it's also more money in your pocket. Here he is.
So, what is the connection between a bail bondsman in Newton and sea level rise? Well, Huss is also the owner of this beach house, made famous in the 2008 movie Nights in Rodanthe, starring Richard Gere and Diane Lane.
4 nights, leaving Tuesday.
Pretty early. I've got a flight to catch.
I was just enthralled with it, with the movie and the house also. At high tide, the water was coming under the house. And at low tide, it would come up to the front steps.
Huss decided to take another risk. He bought the house in 2009.
I was going to save that house to the extent that I would probably die trying.
Okay, Jerry, let's go.
Huss hired the same contractor who moved the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse in 1999.
They tell me in 1 hour the house is going down the road.
He moved the house nearly 300 feet from the ocean, but the ocean is following.
So now we're down to about 250 feet. There is something to the global warming, and our environment with the hotter temperatures is making the oceans rise. So that's a big enemy of any house that's on the coast.
Sea level rise makes erosion worse. Erosion has cost Nags Head several rows of houses over the years.
They seem to be the poster child and the picture of sea level rise, which we don't want to be that.
From 1870 to 1924, global sea level rise has been less than 1 millimeter a year.
The process of sea level change on a global basis is really a slow, gradual process. It's like filling your bathtub gently.
But Rick says global sea level rise is accelerating. Since 1993, the rate has quadrupled to 3.2 millimeters a year. He says sea level rise is accelerating because climate change is warming the oceans. Here in North Carolina, tidal gauges show the rate of sea level rise is less than the global average.
On average, sea level has been rising annually about the thickness of a nickel every year for at least the last 80 years.
But Rogers expects that to change.
We think sea level is going to accelerate in the future, even though we haven't seen it in the historical record of our gauges, but it's almost certain to occur in the future.
Right now, scientific projections are for sea level along our coast to rise anywhere from 15 to 55 inches between now and the end of the century, with a 39-inch rise being the most likely scenario. Just a 2-foot rise in sea level would inundate much of the Outer Banks. Just imagine places like Redanthi underwater. Sea level rise is already causing higher storm surges and more flooding. Just last month, Hurricane Jose caused overwash that came through some beachfront homes and flooded Highway 12, even though its center was 300 miles offshore.
If we look at how we're managing those threats, immediate threats today, we're not doing a very good job of handling the immediate threat.
The town of Nags Head has been dealing with the shoreline threat through beach renourishment.
Our will is to continue to nourish the beach. As long as we can afford to do so, and as long as we have a sand resource that we can replenish the beach with, we're going to continue to maintain the beach.
The town has also required new homes to be built further from the ocean and higher in elevation. The problem is there's little room left for new construction. The town is nearly 90% developed.
I wish 30 years ago they knew then what we know now.
Lawsuits have hampered the town's ability to move homes out of harm's way and condemn and remove ones already on the beach.
We lost some of our appetite for this because the legal challenges are expensive and they do cost the taxpayer quite a lot of money to deal with these.
Meantime, sea level rise is also affecting groundwater.
It's rising, and it's rising fairly quickly,
which contributes to flooding during heavy rains. Last month, the town of Nags Head adopted a comprehensive study that identifies and prioritizes its vulnerabilities to sea level rise.
Regardless of where you fall on the science and how much it's going to rise and how fast and how much, it seemed irresponsible for us to not plan ahead.
The town solicited input from residents and business owners. It even formed a climate change and sea level rise adaptation committee.
And then we started rewriting our codes or addressing climate change, sea level rise into our building codes.
North Carolina Sea Grant partnered with the town to develop the study and use it to start developing an adaptation plan.
We've had elected officials there who have been engaged through the entire process. They're really serious about making this happen.
The plan will focus on critical infrastructure over commercial and residential development.
To really begin thinking about, okay, at what point are we going to have a problem? At what point do we reach a threshold where we will have some negative consequences? And how do we keep that from happening?
For the town of Nags Head, the overriding goal is to stay put as long as possible.
You know, we can't relocate. We can't pick up the town and move anywhere else.
So from originally built in this picture with 400 feet of beachfront down to no beachfront.
Ben Huss already moved his beloved Knights in Redanthi house once. He's hoping he doesn't have to move it again.
We're hoping to get 15 more years, maybe before the water comes up to the edge and up to the front steps. And it'll be there for who knows how long.
With a $1.2 billion annual tourism economy, the Outer Banks may get most of the attention when it comes to sea level rise. But next, the impact may be even greater further inland.
What we're seeing here is erosion rates anywhere in the range of 5 to 15 feet per year. In some places we were getting as much as 45 feet a year.